Okay, so I have the two books, the two Torahs. I have one in English, one in Spanish. Tengo los dos libros de la Torah, la Biblia, uno en español y uno en inglés. So me voy a decidir hacer la lectura en español o en inglés. Y Marín de dos pingües, culpa la matemática, que fue solo una opción bien, y a ver quién fue, bueno, una, dos, tres, cuatro. En inglés. So I'm going to do the reading in English. Wait, eeny, meeny, by the mole, catch a tiger, by the toe. English! It won again. Okay, so the Parasha, the Parasha is called Va-yakhel. Okay, this is about the command. By the way, I'm at Jewish Center. Estoy en el centro judío. Es como un gimnasio, una piscina y una fiesta por ahí. There's a party. Pero yo estoy en la parte de atrás donde no hay nadie. I'm in the back, nobody's here, so it's better. So I decided to do the reading outside my house. Decidí hacer la lectura fuera de mi casa y salir un ratito. Parasha Va-yakhel. Va-yakhel means, and he assembled. So in this parasha is the location of the Sinai desert. The key people of this parasha are Moshe, Bezalel, and Oholiab. And there's one prohibition, one mitzvah prohibition. And this parasha is often read together with the portion of Pekudei. This parasha says, Va-yakhel teaches the importance of the whole over its constituent parts. The components of the tabernacle only attained their unique status when they were assembled as a whole. And however important you may be as a person, your worth becomes all the more apparent when you identify with your people. The Parasha Va-yakhel, significa Va-yakhel. This is from the book of Exodus, from Shemot, and Va-yakhel, este es del libro de Éxodo 2:4. 2:4. 2:4. Va-yakhel, reunió. That means reunió. Assembled. Hello. Assembled. Va-yakhel. Command to build the tabernacle. This is about the appointment of Bezalel and Oholiab, and the construction of the tabernacle begins. In this parasha, we're going to talk about the sanctity of the Shabbos. Moshe began with the laws of Shabbos, emphasizing their observance takes precedence over building the tabernacle. The Shabbat and Sábado is an integral part of our lives, and safeguarding its sanctity comes before any other work. Generous donations. The Jewish people eagerly gave contributions of their possession to the tabernacle. So much was donated, in fact, that Moshe had to send messengers to the entire camp, informing them that no more contributions were needed. And talents. Virtually every talent can be used to worship God. There were those who were able to spin goat's hair while it was still on the animal, and those whose wisdom instructed the craftsmen. Okay, the character profile. The name Oholiab, meaning tent for my father. The father Ahisamach. The achievement of they worked together with Bezalel to lead the construction of the tabernacle, inspire his fellow tribe members to participate in the constructions, when they saw that although from a less esteemed tribe, Bezalel had worked with him. This is known for, he was a craftsman and an artistic weaver, and an embroiderer of turquoise, purple, and crimson wool and linen. Okay, Parasha Va-yakhel. Parasha Va-yakhel from the book of Exodus. Shemot. Moshe assembles the Jewish people. Moshe caused the whole community of the children of Israel to assemble on the day after the Day of the Atonement. And he said to them, these are the things that God commanded to be done. For 6 days work may be done, but the seventh day should be holy for you, a day for complete rest to God. Whoever does work on it should be put to death. You should not kindle fire in any of your dwelling places of the Shabbat. Moshe spoke to the entire community of the children of Israel, saying, this is the thing which God has commanded me to say to you. Collect from among yourselves a contribution offering for God. Every person whose heart inspires him to generosity should bring the following: a contribution for God: gold, silver, copper, turquoise, purple, and crimson woolen, linen, and goat's hair, ram's skin, dyed red, multicolored tahash skins in acacia wood, oil for the eternal lamp, spices for the anointing oil, and for the incense fumes, shoham stones and filling stones for the apron and for the breastplate. Every wise person among you should come, and they should make everything which God has commanded. The tabernacle, its roof and its cover, its clasps and its beams, its crossbars, its pillars and its sockets, the ark and its poles, the lid and the partition, the table and its poles, and all the utensils, and the multi-surface bread. The candelabrum for light, the candelabrum for lighting, its utensil and its lamps, and oil for lighting, the incense, I gotta situate myself. Maybe here. Every wise-hearted person among you should come, and they should make everything which God has commanded. The tabernacle, its roof and its cover, its clasps and its beams, its crossbar, its pillars and its sockets, the ark and its poles, the lid and the partition, the table and its poles and all its utensils, and the multi-surface bread, the candelabrum for lighting, its utensil and its lamps, and oil for lighting, the incense altar, its poles, the anointing oil, the incense for spices, the curtain for the entrance of the tabernacle, the sacrificial altar, its copper netting, its pole, and all its utensils, the urn and its base, the curtains of the courtyard, its pillars and its sockets, and the curtain for the entrance of the courtyard, the pegs of the tabernacle, and the pegs of the courtyard, and their ropes, the meshwork cloth which are used in the holy sanctuary to cover the apparatus during transportation, the holy garments of Aaron, the high priest, and the garments of his sons worn for service. Second reading, Aliyah 2. The entire community left Moshe's presence. Every person whose heart inspired him came, and everyone whose generous spirit inspired him brought the contribution for God, for the work of the tent of meeting, for all its necessities, and for the holy garments. The men came together with the woman next to them. Everyone whose heart inspired him to generosity brought bracelets, earrings, rings, and body ornaments, all kind of gold objects. Every man who donated an offering of gold to God. Everyone had turquoise, purple, or crimson wool, linen, goat's hair, ram's skin dyed red, or tahash skins brought them. Everyone who set aside a donation of silver or copper brought the donation for God. Everyone who had acacia wood for all the work that needed to be done brought it. Every wise-hearted woman spun with her hands, and they brought spun thread, turquoise, purple, and crimson wool and linen. And all the women whose heart inspired them with wisdom spun the goat's hair. The leaders brought the shoham stones and filling stones for the apron and for the breastplate, the spice, the oil for lighting, for the anointing oil, and for the incense. Every man and woman whose heart inspired them to generosity to bring a donation for any of the work that God had commanded them through Moshe to make was brought by the children of Israel as a gift to God. Reading number 3. Appointment of Bezalel Oholiab. Third reading. Third reading and second when it's joined with the other Parasha. Moshe said to the children of Israel, "See, God has appointed Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. He has filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with insight, with divine inspiration, and with the ability for all the types of work, to do master weaving, to work with gold, silver, and copper, with the craft of setting gems, and with the craft of wood, to do all its kinds of skilled work. God gave both Bezalel and Oholiab, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, the ability to teach others. He instilled within them the wisdom of heart, required to perform all the skills of a craftsman, an artistic weaver, an embroiderer, and a weaver, using turquoise, purple, and crimson wool and linen. They were able to do all kinds of work and weave professionally. Bezalel and Oholiab should do all the work together with every wise-hearted man into whom God had instilled wisdom and insight to know how to do all the work of the holy sanctuary in accordance with everything which God had commanded. Moshe called Bezalel and Oholiab and every wise-hearted man into whose heart God instilled wisdom, everyone whose heart inspired him to dedicate himself to do the work. They took before Moshe all the contributions which the children of Israel had offered for the work of the holy sanctuary. They continued to bring more donations every morning. Contributions are completed and construction begins. What's the next topic? All the wise men that were doing the work of the holy sanctuary came. Each of them left the work which he had been doing. They spoke to Moshe, saying, "The people are bringing a lot, much more than is needed, to do the work which God has commanded to do." Moshe issued a command, and an announcement was made in the camp, saying, "No man or woman should do any more work for donations to the holy sanctuary." And the people stopped bringing. The work which the people had done to bring the donations was sufficient for those who build the tabernacle, to do all the necessary construction work, and to leave a surplus. Now we're in Aliyah number 4. This is from Va-yakhel, the book of Shemot, Exodus. We're continuing with Aliyah 4. Then every wise-hearted person among those doing the work made the tabernacle out of the 10 tapestries made from fine linen, thread twisted with turquoise, purple, and crimson wool. He made them with animal designs, the work of a professional weaver. The length of each tapestry was 28 cubits, and the width of each tapestry was 4 cubits. The same measurements applied for all the tapestries. He stitched 5 of the tapestries to one another, and the other 5 tapestries he also stitched to one another. He made loops of turquoise wool on the edge of the tapestry, which is at the end of the first loop of the 5 tapestries. And he did the same on the edge of the end of the curtain of the second loop of the 5 tapestries. He made 50 loops on the edge of the first tapestry, and he made 50 loops on the edge of the tapestry from the second loop. The loops on the 2 different tapestries correspond to one another. He made 50 golden clasps, and he fastened the 2 groups of tapestries to one another with the clasp so that the roof of the tabernacle became one. He made sheets of goats of hairs for a covering over the tabernacle. He made 11 sheets. The length of the sheet was 30 cubits. The length of each sheet was 30 cubits, and the width of each sheet was 4 cubits. The dimensions applied for the 11 sheets. He joined the 5 sheets by them, and the other 6 sheets by themselves. He made 50 loops on the edge of the first sheet, at the end of one group, and 50 loops on the edge of the end sheet of the second set. He made 50 copper clasps to fasten the tent together, so that it became one. He made a further covering for the goat's hair tent of ram skin dyed red, and a covering of tahash skins above. Okay, that's the end of Parasha of Aliyah 4. And we continue with Aliyah 5 from Va-yakhel. Hello. And we are in the book of Exodus, Shemot. 5th reading. This is about the walls of the tabernacle they are constructed. He made the beams for the tabernacle of acacia wood, standing upright. The length of each beam was 10 cubits. The width of each beam was 1.5 cubits. Each beam had 2 square pegs carved at the bottom, separated like rungs, aligned opposite each other. In this way, he made all the beams of the tabernacle. He made the beams for the tabernacle as follows: 20 beams for the southern side. He made 40 silver sockets under the 20 beams, 2 sockets under one beam for its 2 square pegs, and 2 sockets under the next beam for its 2 square pegs. For the second side of the tabernacle, on the northern side, he made 20 beams and their 40 silver sockets, 2 sockets under one beam and 2 sockets under the next beam. For the western end of the tabernacle, he made 6 beams. He made 2 further beams at the northern, western, and southern western corners of the tabernacle at the end. All the beams fit closely next to each other at the bottom. They fit together closely at the top and were connected to each other by rings, which slots into grooves carved into the beam. So too, for both of the 2 beams at the 2 corners. Thus, on the western side, there were 8 beams and their silver sockets, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one beam, and 2 sockets under the next beam. He made crossbars of acacia wood, 5 for the beams of the side of the tabernacle, 5 crossbars for the beams of the second side of the tabernacle, and 5 crossbars for the beams of the rear side of the tabernacle. On the western end, He made the middle bar to go inside the beams, extending from one end to the other end. He coated the beams with gold. He made rings He coated the beams with gold. He made rings on the beams of gold as holders for the crossbars, and he coated the bars with gold. He made partitions of turquoise, purple, and crimson, and wool thread twisted with fine linen thread. The work of an artistic weaver. Animal designs were professionally woven into it on both sides. He made for it 4 pillars of acacia wood coated with gold hooks to hold the partition, inserted into 4 silver sockets. There's a little comment here that I want to read. It says, this is a commentary. It says, although the Torah depicts the divine presence as a dwelling in the tabernacle, its primary resting place is in man. Therefore, when the Torah speaks of the tabernacle, we ought to understand it as if it is speaking about man itself. It also says, this is a commentary, then every wise-hearted person among those doing the work made the tabernacle. This is a commentary. Why did the Torah see fit to repeat all the details of the tabernacle construction after having described it earlier? The tabernacle was actually constructed by Bezalel in a different sequence to that God. Okay, never mind about that commentary. Okay, let's continue. He made for it 4 pillars of acacia wood coated with gold hooks and gold partition, inserted into 4 silver sockets. Let's continue. He made a curtain for the entrance of the tent of turquoise, purple, and crimson wool thread, twisted with fine linen thread, the work of an embroiderer with images of both sides. Its 5 pillars and their hooks, he coated their tops and their decorative bands with gold, and their 5 sockets were made from copper. The tabernacle apparatus is made. Bezalel and his assistants made the ark of acacia wood 2.5 cubits in its length, a cubit in its length, a cubit and a half in its width, and a cubit and a half in its height. He coated it with pure gold, coating it inside and out, and he made upon it a golden rimmed edge all around. He cast 4 golden rings for it, and on its corner 2 rings on one of its side and 2 rings on its other side. He made poles of acacia. Wood and coated them with gold. He inserted the poles into the rings and on their side of the ark to carry the ark. He made a lid for the ark of pure gold, 2.5 cubits in its length, 2.5 cubits in its length, and 1.5 cubits in its width. He made 2 golden cherubim, each with the face of a child. He made them from the same piece of metal hammered out from the 2 ends of the lid. He made 1 cherub from one end, and on the other cherub from the other end. He made 1 of the cherubim at each of the 2 ends of the lid from the same piece of metal. The cherubim had their wings spread upwards, sheltering the lid with their wings, their faces towards one another. The faces of the cherubim were turned towards the lid. He made a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits in its length and 1 cubit in its width, and 1.5 cubits in its height. He coated it with pure gold, and he made for it golden rimmed edge all around. He made for it a frame, 1 hand breadth in width all around. He made a golden rimmed edge for its frame all around. Okay, I want to make a commentary that I want to read from here. It says, he made a lid for the ark of pure gold. That's the commentary about number 6. All the tabernacle apparatus was made of acacia wood inlaid with gold, except for the lid covering for the holy ark and the candelabrum, which were both made of pure gold. I want to read a spiritual vitamin. A human being may be compared to an ark. The body, which consists of tissue, bone, etc., it's physical, but it houses the soul, which is spiritual, is sacred, is pure. Consequently, the body too must be kept holy, just as the ark itself is revered. We're continuing. Number 13, I am on Parasha Va-yakhel, and we are on the 5th reading. He made for it the table, 4 gold rings, and he placed the rings on the 4 corners of its 4 legs. The rings were attached to the legs, adjacent to the frame as holders for the poles with which to carry the table. He made poles of acacia wood, and he coated them with gold. The table was carried with them. He made the table utensils from pure gold, and its bread mold, its spoon, its supporting bars, and its separating bars, which covered the breads and allowed ventilation. Okay, this is the sixth reading. We just finished reading Aliyah number 5 of Va-yakhel Exodus. Now we're going to proceed with the 6th reading of Va-yakhel. He made the candelabrum of pure gold. The candelabrum was made hammered from a single piece of metal. Its base and its stem, its ornament, cups, spheres, and flowers were all from the same piece of metal and not made separately. 6 branches were coming out of its side diagonal. 3 candelabrum branches from one of its sides, and 3 candelabrum branches from its second side. On one branch were 3 decorated cups, a sphere, and a flower. On the next branch were 3 decorated cups, a sphere, and a flower. So 2 for all the 6 branches that came out of the candelabrum. On the stem of the candelabrum, there were 4 decorated cups, 1 below the point where the branches emerged, and 3 at the top, together with its spheres and its flowers. There was a sphere on the stem, first where the first 2 branches came out of it. A sphere where the next 2 branches came out of it, and a sphere where the last 2 branches came out of it. This covered all 6 branches that come out of the candelabrum. Its spheres and branches were all formed from it. All of it was one hammered mass of pure gold. He made its 7 lamps and its wick tongs and its ash scoops from pure gold. He made it from exactly kikar of pure gold, including all its utensils. He made the incense altar out of acacia wood, 1 cubit in its length and 1 cubit in its width, and a square and 2 cubits in its height. Its horns were formed from it. He coated it with pure gold, and its top, its walls all around, and its horns. And he made it for it a golden rimmed edge all around. Okay, I want to make a stop. I want to talk about a spiritual vitamin. It says, souls are also called lights. As the verse states, the soul of man is the candle of God. They are lights which God has sent to earth to lighten up the darkness of this world. So beautiful. I also want to read another commentary. He says, the tabernacle and its apparatus were modeled on the human body, each structural element corresponding to a different limb, the lid corresponding to the heart, and the candelabrum to both eyes. Both of these must be especially pure and not corrupted. With the other limbs, we say, eventually you will act for the sake of heaven. Keep trying. But with the eyes and the heart, you have to be especially careful, always. With the eyes and the heart. Let's continue. He made 2 golden rings for it underneath its rimmed edge on its 2 corners. He made them on its 2 sides so that they should serve as holders for poles in which to carry. He made the poles out of acacia wood and coated them with gold. He made the holy anointing oil and pure incense professionally mixed. Okay, we have finished Aliyah number 6 of Va-yakhel, the book of Exodus, the book of Shemot, and we are in Aliyah number 7. We're going to proceed with Aliyah number 7 from Va-yakhel, the book of Exodus, Parasha Shemot. Excuse me, the book of Shemot, Parasha Va-yakhel. The 7th reading. He made the altar for burnt offering of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. The altar was square and its height was 3 cubits. He made protrusions on its 4 corners, and its protrusions were from the same single piece of wood. He coated it with copper. He made all the utensils of the altar, the pots, the shovels, the sacrificial basins, the flesh hooks, and the fire pans. He made all its utensils from copper. He made for the altar a lattice of copper netting beneath. Its decorative border extending downwards until the middle of the altar. He cast 4 rings on the 4 ends of the copper netting as holder for the poles. He made the poles of acacia wood and he coated them with copper. He inserted the poles into the rings on the sides of the altar in order to carry it with them. Okay, una pregunta, ¿cuánto sale una Coca-Cola?
3.
Dale uno. Con hielito así igual que la tuya. He made the altar hollowed out of panels. He made the copper urn and its copper base from the mirrors of the women who had borne legions of children in Egypt, who congregated at the entrance of the tent of the meeting to give their contribution. He made the courtyard as follows. On the southern side, there were perforated curtains for the courtyard of twisted linen, 100 cubits long. Mira, gracias.
Gracias, muy amable.
¿Este es para ti?
Oh, muy amable, gracias.
Ah, Porchita. Let's continue. ¡Dame un pitillo! Gracias, amigo. Okay, let's continue. He made the courtyard as follows. On the southern side, there were perforated curtains for the courtyard of twisted linen, 100 cubits long. It had 20 pillars and 20 sockets of copper. The hooks of the pillars and their belts were silver. The northern side, okay, amor, gracias. The northern side was 100 cubits. There were 20 copper pillars and their 20 copper sockets for them. The hooks of the pillars and their belts were silver. The western side had 50 cubits of curtains, 10 pillars and 10 sockets for them. The hooks of the pillars and their belts were silver. The eastern end was 50 cubits, consisting of an entrance of 20 cubits and 15 cubits shoulder curtain on each side. There were 15 cubits of curtain on one shoulder, with their 3 pillars and their 3 sockets, so 2 on the second shoulder, so that on either side of the gate of the courtyard there were curtains of 15 cubits, with their 3 pillars and their 3 sockets. All the curtains that surrounded the courtyard were made from twisted fine linen. The sockets of the pillars were made from copper. The hooks of the pillars and their belts were made from silver, and their covering of the tops was silver. All the pillars of the courtyard had belts of silver. And we are in Aliyah number 7. We're going to Maftir Aliyah Va-yakhel. Parasha Va-yakhel, Aliyah number 7, Maftir. At the end of the courtyard was a professionally woven tapestry made of turquoise, purple, and crimson wool thread, twisted with linen thread, 20 cubits high and 5 cubits wide, the same height as the hangings of the courtyard. It had 4 pillars and 4 sockets made from copper. Their hooks were silver, and their coverings on their tops and their belts were silver. All the pegs of the tabernacle and of the courtyard all around were made from copper. And this is the end of Aliyah number 7 from Parasha Va-yakhel, the book of Exodus, Shemot. I want to end with a spiritual vitamin. If you feel that no one seems interested in your work, remember that God, whose knowledge and providence extends to everyone individually, He knows and He is interested in what you are doing. That's why you gotta keep doing it. It doesn't matter if people are not interested. You have to do it for you. You gotta do what's right. So the time that you have to leave the earth, you don't regret not doing something. You have to do it, even if people don't accept it. So I hope you enjoyed it.